trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, and it was just awful.
I've turned chicken salad into chicken shit. I will continue to do so.
Here I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.
Make chicken salad out of chicken shit. People is as people does, that's all there is to it. Put a square peg in a round hole, just never seems to fit. And you
This is Bianca Belair.
Hey, this is Kevin Owens.
Hey, it's Seth freaking Rollins.
It is the man, Becky Lynch.
Rhea Ripley here, and you're listening to Wrestle Radio Australia.
Welcome everyone to your longest running Australian wrestling podcast. This is Wrestle Radio Australia. This is a special episode. I don't do these very often. This is a one-on-one talk with a good friend of mine, a great wrestler, done so much around the country, was voted pretty much, was voted the best male wrestler last year for Wrestle Radio Australia. Tommy Knight, how are you, my friend?
Very good, matey. How are you?
I'm good. Like I said before, it's cold up here, and it's being relative for Queensland, but still.
Yeah, you guys are spoiled for weather.
It's funny because I lived in Adelaide for years and years, and the first year I moved up here, I threw out all of my hoodies. Because even in winter, I'm like, I'm not going to need this. Is fucking hot up here.
Yeah.
Like skip to now, I have like another 20 hoodies back in the thing because I can't handle this.
Oh, you're acclimatized. Oh no.
Yeah, I know. It's because when I went back to Adelaide last year, I was like, was this always this fucking cold? And they're like, yeah, it really is. I'm like, I had no idea.
Oh, it's so good. I love the cold. I love winter. I'm dreading summer, man.
I enjoy being cold more than being hot because like you can put shit on when you're cold.
I've always said that there are so many aspects to when it's cold that people don't appreciate. It's like you can always put more layers on. I can only take off so many things before and I'm still sweating. Like, no, this is uncomfortable. I'm
a guy that's happy in my hoodie, so it's like I'm just like, yeah, give me that. But up here, I don't get much chance. I get maybe a month, 2 months tops, where I get to wear a hoodie, and then aside from that, it's tank tops, jerseys all the time, which is the best.
That's the other attire that I like, so it's not too bad.
So how is everything in the world of Tommy Knight, mate? How is I know because we review the Rampage shows, we review the MCW shows, we pretty much review everything you do at the moment. So, just give us an overview how you feel your year's been going.
Good, man. Very, very good. This year's probably been so. We were talking about this a little bit before, but COVID set a lot of things back, and the reality of the situation is that you just have to accept that we all missed like 2 years of what we could have been. So, getting to finally go to Japan and do like a little tour and go with GLEAT was something that was like that I'd been waiting for that for 5 years. 5-6 years. Yeah. I'd been on, as in 5 or 6 years of being like told, "Hey, get ready, you'll be coming over soon." So to finally do that and be a part of that was really special. I'm obviously I'm really lucky in Australia. I get to do heaps of stuff. I get to consistently go to Melbourne and Canberra. If Canberra is unreal at the moment for something that's like not very old. It's like Slam is fairly new, but their crowds are unreal, man. They're wrestling in front of, I think it was like 1,800 people before, like the November just before I left for Japan was crazy.
Yeah, well, that's I mean, like I like going back to before COVID, we were really hitting like a boom period in Aussie wrestling where everything was getting sold out, everything was all packed. It was all like, it feels like that we're sort of back to that point, if not a bit more now. Like, because I feel like even though we hit that boom period back then, there wasn't as many stronger wrestlers as there is now, like all around the country.
So, like, as far as wrestling talent goes, I am of the opinion that like our country per capita still is like, it's the same with everything that Australia does. It's like the amount of quality talent that we produce compared
Yeah.
to the rest of the world is like ridiculous. The issue that I think we have that was sort of not like fixed pre-COVID, but it was heading in the right direction. That this idea that Australia was going to be its own little hotbed and its own little ecosystem of wrestling, so that people didn't have to move on, people didn't have to go overseas to get signed, to get noticed, because everybody would be watching us because we were producing so much good talent, because our shows had been so good. It was like, it felt like it was heading in that direction. It doesn't feel like that now, and that's like, there's nothing you can do about it. That's just how it is. It's one of those things where it's like talking about my tour in Japan and noticing what the other guys that were there had been watching in Australia and had seen, and a lot of it was like World Series wrestling was something that they were pretty familiar with, but you know, for pretty obvious reasons when you've got how many internationals on each tour.
Yeah.
So that's the real international focus is on a show like that, which I think is a shame, because is MCW, Rampage, Slam, PWA, EPW, like Riot, all of those guys, Pro Wrestling League, like they're all quality shows. They deserve an audience, but it's also just the nature of things when you just can't get those eyes on it anymore.
Yeah, I remember talking to like because I did a thing with Kate from Fightful a while ago, where she was focusing on different countries around the world and what their scene was like, and so like I put her on to like, you need to watch this, you need to watch this, you need to watch this, you need to watch, because I knew what a sort of tastes were like. I was like, you need to check Delta out, because she's not going to be, I don't think she'll be here very much longer, yada yada yada. And then I've noticed since that she sort of passed that on to other people around that, and she's a real sort of champion, like an American champion for Australian wrestling now, which is really good to see, because hopefully they'll go, oh yeah, I want to check out this Delta, and when they do, they'll see like an MCW show and go, holy shit, Tommy Knight, Caveman Ugg, what a fucking match. Do you know what I mean? There's that sort of like overrun that you really hope happens.
There's always the hope for like a trickle down effect where you get introduced to one person that's like a very clear star, and then that feeds down to the rest of the card. But like, speaking of Delta, it's like, I think for most people, as soon as they saw her day one, I remember the first picture I ever saw her, and I was like, oh, as soon as anybody notices her, I was shocked that it took as long as it did. I was like, she's a year here tops. She's 12 months before they're like, we don't want her learning any bad habits from the Indies. We'll take her and teach her our way. Took a little bit longer, but
I reckon with Demi, the only reason it took as long with her is because she wasn't old enough.
Exactly, and that's what I figured it would be, something similar with Delta as far as getting noticed.
Yeah,
they needed to see a picture. That there's I can't remember what. There's a picture that circled when she signed. It's been leaked, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a picture circulating. And I was like, that you could show anybody this picture, and they'd be like, "Oh, great, yeah, she
Who's
belongs
that?
on TV. Yeah, she belongs on TV."
Yeah.
So, yeah, as far as she goes, it was like, it's pretty surprising that it took as long as it did, but it was never in question.
Yeah, but that being said,
as far as getting her on an MCW show, and then that attention trickling down to like you said, like me, Caveman Ugg, Slex, even like Brooksy, all those guys. It's like, that's the hope, but that's also, there's still your own personal responsibility to get your stuff out there, to be active on social media. Like I know this, I tell people this, I'm still bad at it, man. It's easily the thing that I'm worst at in wrestling.
Yeah, because it's not like, unless like you've got people like we talked off air about like Zeke Andino, and the stuff he's been doing in Japan. He has a background where I think he's gone to school for like social media and that sort of stuff. So he's got that tool in his toolbox before, like, putting over his wrestling, which is great.
And like speaking of Zeke, so we had a little crossover time when I was doing my tour and he came in to do his tour of Big Japan. And you know he crushed it, man. He was doing all the right things. He was going out to the dinners and the nights out to make those connections. To like obviously it's like you're going out as like, oh yeah, it's night out with your friends and you're going out to drink and have a good time, but you know it's still an important social aspect to it of creating those connections. And he was doing all those things. He's crushing social media. He was like posting almost daily, and it was always stuff that it's like it's very eye catching. It's very like I remember talking to him about it. He's like, oh man, I always thought it was like I thought it was terrible because it was something that I'd whipped up in like 5 minutes on my phone. I was like, dude, if I could do that, I would be so much further along than I currently am. Like I should be, but because I'm not as good as someone like Zeke at that, I'm not.
Yeah, there are some people that are annoyingly talented at that. Like Solomon. Solomon's another one. His marketing of his character and his gimmick is like second to none. Like before he'd even stepped foot in the ring, you're like, oh, this guy's somebody.
The first time I was ever shown any of his stuff, the first time I was ever like around him, I was like, he's got like that special X Factor type thing. You know that when they talk about like, oh, you know, you can't describe the intangibles, but you know it when you see it. That kind of shit, that kind of crap. And it was like, that's him. That's him to a T. You see him and you're like, oh, okay, that's you got something going on.
Yeah, I remember we were setting up the ring once for a pro league show, and I was standing with Istria, and we were looking at that Solomon setting up the ring, and he was wearing leather pants and gumboots.
Dude, those leather pants.
And we're like, how does that fucking work? Like, I would be laughed out of a room if I walked in wearing those, but he looks and you're like, you know what, that looks pretty cool.
That's fashion,
it's
baby.
Annoying.
Taking a fashion risk, and that man's got the charisma to pull it off. He can wear whatever he wants. That dude can do no wrong. He wears those leather pants everywhere, man. We had him down in Rampage, and I remember it's like a 38-degree day. It's like nearly 40 degrees, and he's still wearing leather pants. He's got his leather jacket on, and I'm just like looking at him, being like, hasn't broken a sweat. I'm in shorts, a tank top, and I'm like dripping. And I just look at him and I'm like, what's wrong with you? How?
Yeah. Well, I remember the first time I think it was like his first or his second match. He was walking around in like a branded tracksuit with his logo branded all over it. And I'm like, dude hasn't even stepped in the ring yet, and he already looks like he's been here for 10 years.
Yeah, like he came in very prepared, and it was impressive.
Yeah.
I've been very impressed with him.
Endless amount of respect for that kid.
Yeah, for sure.
You've been doing a lot of work with Wrestle Rampage, a former Australian national champion now. Tell me what it's like down there with the dojo and all the crop of young guys you've got coming up through that, because there are a lot of like promising people that are coming through lately.
Yeah, so as far as the dojo goes, it's like it is taking a little bit of time to like not modernize, because a lot of what we do is still very much based in what we've traditionally always done, which is, you know, training that's come from Japan, like Harvey
it
Jackson.
serves you right. Like as long as you get those basics down, you can do anything really.
Exactly, and that was something that, you know, the further along I've gotten, the more I've realized is like if you are capable of learning the basics of moving and bumping and doing just basic ring movements, you can apply that to everything. Like I can take anything, I can do anything because I have mastered those handful of basics that you need for every movement. There's like, you know, there's always something new to learn, but it's like there's nothing that I'm held back by because I don't have that foundation. And there's still like a big focus on that. As far as the rookies go, we've got Wes Ryan. He's big time. I think he's going to be.
I saw him. Like you can tell when you're watching him, he's green, but you can tell he's got something.
Yeah,
I think I remember when we talked about it when we did the review for it. I'm like, he's got something. He just needs to put it together. Once he puts it together, then we're going to be talking about this guy being like, why isn't he more places?
Yeah, like he's tall, he's athletic, he's good looking. You know, he's a big boy. That's the one thing about Rampage is that I think we've always produced like the biggest guys. Our roster compared to every other roster in the country is huge. Like not in terms of like, oh, we've got heaps of people, as in like every single one of us is like,
Yeah, you got beef.
Yeah.
There's some beef.
Yeah, I'm on the bigger side, but I'm on like the average end of bigger. Whereas like there's just so many guys that are huge.
It's kind of killing your last heavyweight gimmick.
Yeah. People don't get that. I've tried to explain it to people, and it's like, you know what? If you watch me wrestle, you understand, because it's like let's talk about that. So the whole thing that I was going for with that is wrestling. So being a heavyweight, like actual like weighing in at above whatever the weight limit is, that's not heavy wrestling. Just being big. There's heaps of guys that are huge that like they don't. Like, oh, they're incredible because they don't move like a heavyweight. It's like, that kills a lot of the mystique for me. Like, that kills a lot of what makes heavyweight wrestling special. If you watch, like Vader, if you watch Stan Hansen, if you watch Terry Gordy, Steve Williams, all those guys, they don't go out of their way to do something that they shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. Like, or when they do, it's a big special moment. It's not something they do all the time because that kills what they are. And it's like, it's just not a shot at anybody. It's just like nobody does that. That's because nobody gets it. Nobody understands that. Nobody that I know has taken the time to watch those guys and study what they did and why they did it, and then break down each and every match that they've had, or at least like even just breaking down their big famous matches. I've been lucky enough that I had Istria sit with me for like 2 years and be like, okay, well, you're going to learn to do this and break this down because that's what's going to make you special and that's what's going to make you unique. So I did, and that's why I can do that. That's why I understand those things. But it's like, unless you're talking about people that are already signed, like Gunther can do it.
Yeah.
Gunther's probably. That's why Gunther's like the best wrestler in the world, because it's like it's what he does. He doesn't do anything that you wouldn't imagine someone of his size doing. You know?
Do you think it's more now that the bigger guys want to do those moves maybe for the gifts and that gets more of notice than doing the style that even though is fucking great. Like, I'm a massive fan of your style. If you've ever heard me review any of your matches, I love the way you work because it's real. It feels real to me when I see you in there.
Look, that's like, I'm sure that's part of it. I can't speak on any individuals, but it's also like, it's not going to work for everyone, and I understand that because not everybody wants to do it. Like, I love that. I loved watching it, so that's why I do it. Whereas, like, when I first started, that's not what I wanted to do. I was like, when I first started wrestling, my biggest influence was Rey Mysterio, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do high flying stuff. That's cool. Until I had like Bronson Reed and Istria sit me down and be like, look, that ain't going to happen, my friend.
Yeah.
So
no one wants to take a run off you.
Exactly. No one can. It's too hard. And I get that. But a lot of not doing wrestling that way, or like without getting too into like mechanics and details of how it works, it's something that requires a lot of limiting yourself with the understanding that it pays off in the end. So like there's heaps of things that I am physically capable of that I won't do. I'm happy for people to think that I can't do them because it's like it doesn't add anything to my mystique or the aura.
If somebody says, "Oh, do you want to do this?" You could go. You'd be like, "I could, but why?"
Yeah, like, can you do like a 450s? Like, probably. I would never do it because it would absolutely ruin any like it kills the illusion of size. Is the way I put it. I'm big, but I can make myself bigger if I don't do these things. The guy that I always use as an example is Ishii from New Japan.
Yep.
He's 5'6", man. He's tiny. He's so small. But you watch him wrestle, and I'm like, I would be hard pressed to find many guys that are better at wrestling like a heavyweight than he is.
That was like the first time I watched Dick Togo live. It was at like it was at the Gov, I think it was, for Wrestle Rampage.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yep.
And I think it was myself and like Brody Marshall, and we were like ringside, and he slammed into the ring. We're like, he's tiny, but holy shit, he's a ball of muscle.
Dick Togo is an interesting one just because he had a lot of like unique, not just like mannerisms, and he did a lot of stuff that was very not done at the time, like very like an innovator. But as far as like, yeah, as far as explaining the last heavyweight is like, because as many guys that are big in this country, like even in the world, I would go as far to say, unless you're talking like guys in WWE or New Japan, like guys that don't have a contract with somewhere, I would argue that there's no one besides me that does it.
That works like a heavyweight.
Yeah, not anybody that gets how to do it. That actually understands what they're doing. There's guys that are like, oh, you know, I'm big, so I don't bump, and it's like that's not it. That's not being a heavyweight.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Like with Rampage, talking about it, like because I've been thinking about, and I think I was talking about it on one of the rides up to Wide Bay with we pile the boys into the car, and we it's a 4-hour trip, so we all get talking about what's going on, and I was like, I was talking about like the basis of people in like promotions around the country. Like there's that base of people, like say over in Perth, you've got like Davis and Slater and Pitt and all those guys that have been there for, like Rampage has been really blessed with the fact that they've got guys like the Graham brothers who didn't really want to or haven't really tried traveling anywhere else, that have really strengthened your Fed, really, isn't it? Haven't they? Because they spread the gamut of the card, really, when you look at them.
Yeah. So as far as like Rampage has been blessed in a lot of ways. So like if we'll go through the Graham brothers first. So like all 4 of them have been at different stages. They've been like the most integral part to Rampage existing and continuing to exist. They're genuinely like the lifeblood of Wrestle Rampage. And like they've been places. Don't get me wrong. Like Wrecking Ball is a good example. He did a number of tours of Japan. But like, and Joey Graham, if he hadn't split his focus between music and wrestling, he probably would have been one of the big like main attractions of Australian wrestling across the entire country for the last like 5 years. You know, he was up there with Jonah when he was here with Bronson. As far as talent level, it was just something that it was like. Greg is the one that if people have never seen Greg Graham wrestle, they're missing out on probably the single most entertaining professional wrestler in the world. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not joking. I'm not putting anybody down. He's the best. He's indisputably he's the most naturally gifted. This is what I tell everybody when they ask. He's the most naturally gifted professional wrestler I've ever seen. Of being like he can just do it. He's the only person I've ever seen that just can do whatever you want him to do.
Yeah.
And then,
well,
I was just like touching on one more because there's also Pat Graham, and Pat Graham is like he's baby Graham. He's the youngest. He's also like he is.
I remember when I was in Adelaide, he was like the runt of the litter, and I'm like, this kid. I don't know if this kid's going to fill out. Like compared to the rest of the boys, it looks like they're taking all the food because he's just not. And then something happened, and he went all bloody.
And now he's 6'4" and with abs. Yeah. It's quite the transformation, and he's obviously a lot of his focus is in his personal life, which is like that's life, that's how it goes. But at the same time, it's like he's always there for training, he's always there for ring crew, he's always there to do everything that is needed, and it's the same with all 4 of them. Wrestle Rampage wouldn't exist without them. We need to find a way to exist without them because, one day they're not going to be there. But while we've got them, we're very blessed. And we've also been blessed in a lot of other ways because it's like our lineage of head coaches went from like Jag, Slater, Bronson Reed, Istria, like all very internationally traveled and respected in all their own rights. And they've been everywhere. They've done everything. They know everyone. They can contact almost anybody in wrestling if they don't know the answer to a question. So it's like we have literally the entirety of wrestling knowledge at our fingertips if we need it.
Yeah, which is I remember because I talked to because when we reviewed the last Rampage show, I was talking off air to the boys on the show, and I was like, you wouldn't have known that Gorgeous Greg had been Gorgeous Greg for ages, and then turned into this dastardly heel that was nothing like Gorgeous Greg, and then just decided, I'm kind of sick of doing that. I'm going to go back to being Gorgeous Greg, and just hit it back again like on all cylinders, like nothing had changed, and just completely over with the crowd again.
He's the best. He's the only guy that can walk out, do his entrance, do nothing, and walk back, and everybody be like, "We got our money's worth."
Yeah, well done, son. Well done.
Yeah, exactly.
How did it feel to you? I know it was sort of like bittersweet because you were losing your championship, but seeing Havoc finally getting that moment after 25 years of getting that belt. Because Havoc's one of the... For those of you that don't know, off-air or behind the scenes, Havoc is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And just, like, Jag and... Like, growing up, when I was a kid growing up and I knew what wrestling was, it was just Jag and Havoc was the two guys that I knew were Australian wrestlers. In Adelaide, anyway. They were the only two guys. And to now see that, like... Especially the shape he's gotten himself into over the last 12 months as well. Is just an absolute credit to the guy. So how did it feel for you seeing him finally get that reward?
Look, it really well deserved. It's not, but the thing is, it wasn't just about it being like he's been here for 25 years, he's done everything.
Yeah, it wasn't a participation trophy.
No, exactly. It wasn't like, you stuck it out, so here's your reward. It was like, no, you're the right guy at the right time, in the right place, with the right story. You deserve this. This belongs to you. So as far as that and it just coming together in his 25th year is pretty wild. To have stuck it out for so long and to be like, I'm sure at some point he was like, it's just not in the cards for him. It's just not going to happen. And then for it to be like, you know what? It actually has just come together perfectly for it to be you to carry this for now. So. Very, very special to be a part of that.
So you can go from there to like the you've been really one of the key components in the resurgence of MCW as well with the way that they have, because they went through a little bit of a lull for a while, but now for the last 2 years, absolutely hitting all cylinders with you being a major part of the card. What's it like being a part of that roster in Melbourne?
I'd love being part of MCW, man. They've done a really good job of creating a culture where it's like everybody gets along. There's no... So when they had their lull period, even then, people have said that to me before, and I was there for that too, and I don't remember it ever being like a real lull. Like, I had my first match with Slex, and that was like, oh, this is going great. This is like, I've got to wrestle somebody that I've really wanted to for a long time, and the crowd still felt really hot. Like, I don't remember the numbers. That would probably be the biggest thing of whether or not it was like a proper lull. I know there has been a big shift in who comes to the shows, but as far as like a boom period for MCW, absolutely, like being a part of that original changeover and that rebuild, as far as like new storylines and new talent coming through, and whoever's being pushed the way they have been and being used however they have been, it's been great. Like, I'm happy to sing their praises endlessly. They've always treated me really well, so I have nothing but good things to say about FCW.
Because you've been through, like, really, if you'd thought about it 2 years ago, there's no way you thought, okay, I'm going to work Buddy Matthews on top of a card at MCW in front of a packed house. I mean, that had to be a thrill for you to be able to do that.
Yeah, of course.
Just as a learning experience as well, with someone who with as much experience as what Buddy has.
Yeah, so working Buddy was like a really good test and gauge for me to see, like, my biggest thing for me personally is that I've had a lot of people over the years be like, you need to understand where you are and stop putting yourself at anything less. And that was like okay, I'm going to walk into this match with an international talent, and I had every person that had heard about this, that was like before it happened, being like, "Oh, you nervous? Are you nervous? How you feeling? Are you nervous?" It was like, no, not really. He's good. It's supposed to get easier when they're good. Like this. I shouldn't have to think about this at all. I should be like, yeah, I get to look forward to it because it's easy. Because it will be good, and it will be good, and it won't be difficult. And then it happened. It was that he's like, if anything, if nothing else, Buddy Matthews is phenomenal at wrestling.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well, I remember like someone who is as an inexperienced a wrestler as I am, because I am. I've had maybe 3 matches in my career as a manager. Mm-hmm. Well, I had to do a main event against Istria not too long ago. And I remember, like, Istria I think he was trying to fuck with me. Just trying, because I'm like, oh, we'll talk about it. He goes, yeah, we'll work it out. I think I said to him, look, if this match is the shits, no one's going to blame me. And he's just like, oh, yep, you're right. We'll probably... because, like, and I had no worries at all, because I'm like, it's Istria.
Yeah.
We're going to be fine. It's Istria. Like, I just have to be where he needs me to be, and I'm going to be fine.
He's exactly the same. Like, a lot of the guys that have come through as like the head coaches of Rampage, of like they're built from the same mold of just being like, as far as wrestling anyway. You know, I've worked with History a bunch. It's always like, it's always good. It's always there's heaps of attention to detail that you have to think about, but it's like that's what it takes when you start to get like to a certain level. That's how you take it to the next level. You need to pay attention to those things. And he's got one of the best brains for wrestling I've ever known. Slater, Sam, Bronson Reed was a freak for that. Bronson Reed's the most obsessed person with wrestling I've ever met in my life. I know that's why he's good, but it's also a different level. Jag was the same. Jag is a little bit different just because it's like there's a natural level of charisma there that it's like you just have to have it.
He's another one of those guys. Yeah, he's another one of those guys that you look at and you go, okay, he's somebody. He's like what they used to say with the airport test. He's somebody. I remember watching him because like he used to do security when the WWE guys had come down, and half the time you wouldn't be looking at the WWE guy, but like, who's that dude with the mohawk that's standing behind him? Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
Look, yeah, I have nothing but praise for Jag of just being like, he is one of the deepest sources of wrestling knowledge that we have access to in Australia. I wish more people were less scared to talk to him. Don't get me wrong, I get why. He's an intimidating man, but if you genuinely have like actual questions for him, he's probably got the answers. That dude's a genius for wrestling.
I must admit, like I haven't had a hell of a lot to do with him when I was in Adelaide. But just hearing the way he sort of helped Mitch Ryder out when Mitch was in Japan, I'm just like, yeah, well, that just confirms everything I've heard about the guy.
He cares. He cares more than he'll ever admit, man. He wants to see the best for everybody. Like Mitch and what, we still in line? And we're back. Mitch and Zeke both of them, like from what I watched of their time in Japan, they did really, really well. They did all the right things. They took all the right lessons from going there. For me, it was about confidence, like having almost like I walked away from that knowing that I needed to build a level of confidence that borders on arrogance, because that's what I need to take my next step in development. You know, I had to be like, you know what, I am very, very good at wrestling. I need to know that. Like, I need to believe that so that I can keep going forward. Because otherwise you stagnate. And that's the death of a wrestler.
That's what I remember Mitch asking me a while ago. He's like, what's really, what do I have to do to break through? I said, mate, you just need the opportunity. Like, if you get the opportunity and you get in front of people, they'll get to, like, behind the scenes and in front of, they'll get to know who you are as a person, but then they'll get to see your work and go, yeah, this is someone who we need around more often. It's just hard getting that shot.
It's also like, look, there's not a lot of spots for people there's not a lot of spots for people that travel. Like, I am very, very fortunate, and like, don't get me wrong, I know how fortunate I am that I'm like, okay, Slam bring me in consistently, MCW bring me in consistently. It's very privileged to be in that spot, but it's also something where it's like what I was saying to you before we started, as far as like, it depends what your goal is as well. So my end goal is to have a contract, to be full-time signed, to wrestle full-time. That would be my job. That's the end goal for me. To make that happen, have to look outside of Australia. That was probably the biggest downfall as far as what we were talking about with COVID, is where it felt like we were building towards where that didn't have to be the case. That's the reality of our situation now. If you have to travel, you have to post consistently, you have to build a following, you have to basically become your own brand, and promote that, because that's what companies are looking for. They want something that they can bring in and they can plug in straight away, and it's immediately something that's like that you bring whoever with you.
Yeah, you already have an audience.
Yeah, you walk in, and even if it's like, you might have the same audience that they've already got in front of them, but they already know who you are. They don't have to do any work to build you. They might have to do work to teach you their style of things, the way they like to do things, but that's easy. It's the stuff where it's like, okay, we have to introduce you to an audience. We have to get them to follow you and care. And it's like, even if you're really, really, really good, if you don't already have that connection with some of the audience, that's the hardest part.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the young workers coming up now would sort of they'd be silly to not think that the first thing people look at, like bookers, stuff like that, first thing people don't look for is their social medias first, to see what following you've got, especially for like the hires up, like your WWEs, even your MCWs and all that, would still look at your social media, see how your brand is, see how many followers you've got. All of that stuff is all, nowadays, it's all part of the package. You don't just have to be a really good worker and a good vibe behind the scenes. You've also got to have that other component now to your game. It's just, more the game evolves, the more that your game has to evolve.
Yeah, if there was one thing that I could pass on to everybody that, like, admittedly, I was taught it early. It was just a lesson that it took a long time for it to sink in and for me to accept it, is that social media is, at this point, is more important than wrestling. It's better to be good at social media than it is to be good at wrestling, which is really sad.
Yeah,
really
when you think
sad.
about it.
Yeah, but it's true. Building a brand, that's what these companies look for. It's like, if you have 100,000 followers and you're okay at wrestling, you can't be bad. That's all you really have to avoid.
Yeah, just don't be terrible.
Don't be terrible, but if you've got 100,000 followers and somebody that is like genuinely, maybe the next Shawn Michaels is next to you, but he's got 100 followers, who are they going to look at? There's no reason for them to look at, like, they can teach wrestling. It's like, look, it's not up to me whether I agree with this approach. That is the approach. That is what they do. That's their process. And that's the same process across every single televised brand. It's the same process. They believe either they're going to take the super indie talent that have 100,000 followers, or they're going to take the influencer with 2 million followers. You know, the person that's like, breaking in is the hardest part. It's a lot to do with how do you promote yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why it's like Zeke Andino is like that. That is the blueprint. He genuinely crushed it. As far as like, what do you do? How do you promote yourself? That's how.
Yeah. Speaking of like breaking in, like Slam Pro Wrestling League, like, talk about like out of nowhere, because really, like, I used to joke with my wife when we first moved up to Queensland, like, why did you move me up to the back end of wrestling in Australia? Like, I went from one of the hottest territories with Adelaide to moving up to Queensland. Like, if we were talking cold, like Canberra before Slam were there, they were doing bugger all when it came to like crowds, like show stuff like that. Then it seems like Slam just broke in, and within a matter of like a year, were quickly like neck and neck with everyone else in the country.
Yeah. So with Slam, it was just, I think it was a matter of opportunity. There was nothing really in Canberra that was like really, demanding to be seen. And then you get the right guys in charge with a vision of what they want and how they want the show to go. And I think, because I've spoken with the guys that run it and how they work it, and their reasoning for doing certain things. Like they have short shows. That's one of they get out by 9:30, and like they're very on time with everything. They want everything to run really smooth time. One of my favorite things they do, and this is like spreading secrets. They have a whiteboard to write everything time down on.
Yeah, mate. Something with your microphones.
Oh, can you hear me?
Now I can, yeah. It was just breaking in and out there for a while.
Oh, okay, sorry. Just saying, if I'm spreading company secrets, they've got a whiteboard that they write everybody's time down on. I love that. That is a really good way to hold everybody responsible for what they're doing in their own work and to make sure that everything runs on time. The feeling that they're going for is they want everybody to want more. Oh, I wish there was more of that. Great, come back next time and you'll see more. That is the essence of a local show, and that's because that's what we are. We're all grassroots wrestling, and if you want to grow it, and you want people coming back and talking about it, having people wanting more instead of being like, "Oh man, that was great. I saw everything I wanted to see." Never want people walking away with that.
Yeah, I've had that argument sometimes with the guys at Pro Wrestling League, because for a while there, he was all about everyone going home happy at the end of the night, and I'm like, you don't always want that, because you want them to want to come back and see the bad guy get their ass kicked. Like, you can't always, like, you can end it happy sometimes, but if they always go, oh, the good guy's going to win in the end, it gets predictable. Whereas if you bring it back, like, I want to come back and see this guy get his ass kicked, then that's like leaving them wanting more is always the key, because you want them to come back and spend money and see your product again.
Like, I understand wanting people to go home happy, and especially when it's like, it's not like we have like a weekly television show where people would say, oh, tune in next week and you get to see what you're hoping to see. And it's like, and a lot of Australian shows have to be their own little self-contained stories. Like every show has to be its own story because it's so long in between. Even with like really well promoted shows, MCW do a great job of promoting each story. I think Rampage do a really good job as well of people of putting all the pieces of each story that carries from show to show in place. Yeah. But with the understanding that not everyone's going to follow all of that, you need to have each show have a self-contained story. I understand that. But as far as sending people home happy is fine. Sending people home completely fulfilled, that's where I think people make a mistake. Yeah.
I've been wanting to talk to you about this because I haven't had a chance to talk to you about, like, Ballarat, OPW, Australian Stampede. You were going into it thinking, I've got Powerhouse Hobbs, and then all of a sudden that falls out. And for a while there, you didn't know what you were really going to do. Next thing you know, you're working with Shelton Benjamin. Tell me how that all came about. Tell me the process, because that had to be sort of a weekend where you're like, oh shit, that was a really good chat. Oh, okay, holy shit.
Yeah, that was a interesting time. So doing the OPW show, and then I didn't know that Hobbs wasn't coming until he put his thing up until it was announced that he was. I think it was on Twitter that he was going to be on AEW same day or day after
Rampage or something,
something like that. And then I was like, oh, that's interesting. Does he have to go like immediately? Is it like he wrestling and then going straight to the airport? How's that going to work? And then he put out the video of like, oh, sorry guys, I won't be able to make it, unfortunately. Hopefully I'll make it out next time. And I was like, that sucks. Because that would have been really cool. And then I was like, I was left in a little bit of limbo, because obviously there's a lot of things with a show like that where it's like they're traveling to a little bit of a rural town. There's a lot of international people coming in. I understand that there's a lot of logistics and overheads that and there's problems that are very unforeseen. You have to just accept that, and part of being a professional. You just kind of, I'm still coming. I'm doing whatever you want, whoever it may be. And then day before, because I'd been emailing the guy running the show, and he was just like, obviously he was very stressed and rushed, and
Yeah.
there was a lot going on. And he didn't really have anything for me until until the day before, and then he was like, "Oh, it's probably going to be Shelton." I was like, "Oh, okay,
just Shelton." Oh, okay.
sure." And it went from being like, "Oh, okay, big boy match," to being like, "Oh, okay, I've got the guy that is, he's known for his work." So it's like, okay. And then get there on the day. Shelton Benjamin is the nicest dude you can possibly meet wrestling. Like, genuinely, for a guy that's been on TV for 20 years, unbelievable how humble and how nice he is. It was a really good experience. I got to be like, "Hey, man, I've been watching you since I was 6 years old. I'm really excited for this," And it was like, because, like, looking at him being like, isn't he like, he's like 48 years old, and then watching him do his warm up. I was standing with a couple of the boys.
Enough of the age matter, right?
Yeah. I was standing with a couple of the boys and watching him do his warm up, and then he just, the barricades that they put around the ring, and he just jumps over them. No hands, no nothing, just jumps over it, and we're just like,
yeah,
what are we doing with our lives?
I must admit, he was a lot bigger in person than what I could have imagined.
He's huge compared to what he looks like on TV, which is like, it gives you an appreciation of how big everyone was back then.
Everyone else is? Yeah.
All massive guys, but also it was like, yeah, damn, he's legit like 6'2", 250 pounds. It's like maybe like 110 kilos.
Yeah, something
like that. He's a unit. When he got me up for the power bomb, it was like, it was nothing. I did not. That was ridiculous. I've never been manhandled like that before in my life.
I remember because I was there for Wrestle Radio, watching all of the panels and stuff like that sort of thing. I went to him. It was like Masters and somebody else I can't remember off the top of my head. But he was talking about wanting to get, he likes getting in there with big guys and then throwing them around. And it was about then that I'd put two and two together. I'm like, I reckon Tommy's going to end up working with him. And then as soon as he said that, I went, oh, this is going to be fun because Tommy's not used to being thrown around.
It was good. I was really happy with it. I spoke to him about it afterwards, and he was really happy with it. Like, he did the Chris
Then he put you over, didn't he? On
the Van Vliet podcast, and I had so many people sending me that and being like, "Have you seen this? Have you seen it?" And it's like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. And then it was just like, that was, to me, that was like, he has absolutely no need to do that. That's something that he just chose to do because he remembered it. And I was like, yeah, if that doesn't cement that he's like the nicest dude, the most humble professional guy you'll ever meet in wrestling, that nothing else will. He's the best. He was awesome.
Speaking of people that are awesome, mate, you're awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. You got the big match coming up with Vendetta. Is it Vendetta?
I got Vendetta. So next show is Conquest and then Vendetta.
That's right. Because you got Conquest with the tournament, the 8-man tournament. You're the only one that's been announced so far for the tournament, yeah?
Yes, we have second one was Tuckman. Sorry.
Sorry. I apologize.
So there's been 2 people announced so far, Tuckman and myself. It's an 8-man tournament, one night. So the winner has to win 3 matches in one night. I did that last year. I was the defending champion. I defended my championship in Conquest, and I won that. So that gives me an advantage over everyone. I'm the only person in this tournament that's done it before.
So where's that being held? How can they get tickets?
So tickets are available through Humanitix. You can go through the Wrestle Rampage social media. You can check my social media. I'll have it posted as well. And it will be at Cosgrove Hall as for the rest of the year. That'll be the home of Wrestle Rampage. So yeah, go check it out, August 31st.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy Wrestle Rampage shows. I think I like them because they are a different style to the Riot City shows. So you've got two differing styles of wrestling in the one town, which I love because you've got a choice. You got to you've got there's a variety. You're not just going to the same show with a different name, and that's what I dig about it. I think the most of all because like I like both styles. So if I want to go and see this, I want to see this. I see that. I love that shit. You've got Slex and that place is already sold out though. I don't think we have to sell tickets for that. Do we?
Probably not. Look, MCW, they do their own business, man. I just rock up and do my job. Yeah. If I put on a match that people remember and they come back to the next one, then I've done my job.
Yeah, and you're currently suspended from Slam.
I'm the most suspended person in Slam history. So I've made myself a reputation there. I get suspended every other week. So
yeah, you kind of went all Bronson on him because actually we didn't talk about that. You've got to love how he's getting pushed at the moment.
Look, he is finally getting what we like. You know, all of us at Wrestle Rampage knew who he was and what he should be getting and how talented he was. So it's like, yeah, okay, he's finally getting to push to the spot that we know that he deserves. So yeah, watching him finally get like quality television time against guys that have got that big name value. Very, very, very.
That crossbody on Truth on Monday. Holy shit. I was like, no, I wouldn't have taken that.
Man, Truth's hanging in there longer than anybody has any right. So, you know, bless him, but it's Bronson's time. You know, he deserves it.
Yeah. I'm like, Bronson is the first I ever clothesline off, and it was during my tryouts for Riot City. We're in the ring, and he's like, you ever taken a clothesline before? I said, no, I've played rugby, but I've never taken a clothesline before. And then just threw me off the ropes and get clothesline.
Yeah, he did.
Did he? Well, there you go.
He's like,
I feel like I'm in good company.
I'm going to teach you to hit the ropes. Okay, and then you're going to take a clothesline? You ever done that before? I was like, nah, but, you know, I come from jiu-jitsu and wrestling, so I'll figure it out. Hit the rope, bang. It's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I did. Yeah, good work. You got straight back up. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's a big meaty arm there.
Yeah. I had no real choice but to sell that. That's fine.
No, down I go. No, it's very exciting to see him do what we always knew he could.
Yeah, what he had the potential to do. Finally, they're letting him live up to his potential, which is great to see.
They see his value and they're using it, so that's really good.
Yeah. So we've covered off your Wrestle Rampage. You've got Conquest. You've got Vendetta with MCW. Still suspended from Slam. Anywhere else we've got you coming up, or is that it at the moment?
For this year, that's probably it. Next year, start of next year, I have some pretty big plans. We just have to get there. So
yeah,
hopefully that's a little bit of travel for me.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see what you're doing, mate. I'm a massive fan of your work. I've always said that. For those of you that want to follow Tommy, he is on Instagram and on X at TommyKnight1995. If you're watching the show, you can tell us right been down the bottom of the screen the whole time. We are here at Wrestle Radio AU on pretty much all your socials. Go and follow us. Tommy, once again, mate, thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, I don't do these very often. When I do it, it's with people that I really want to talk to. I really want to get to know a bit better. And I feel like people listening to this show have probably got to learn a little bit more about you. So thank you so much for that, mate.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So until next time, I'm Todd Eastman. See you later.
Bye, guys.